Guys, we apologize, we're a couple of minutes late. It's streaming, but it's not telling us here. It's streaming and recording, so we wanted to make sure everything was working right. All right, I'm going to call this meeting to order. Time is 6:34. First thing, hold on, I have to look at my agenda again. Sorry. First thing is the invocation, the Pledge of Allegiance. Dan, would you like to do the invocation?
Bow our heads, if we will. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so very much for giving us again this opportunity to come together and do the city's business. Please give us inspiration and guidance and understanding, always trying to do your will. May this incoming administration continue to listen and abide by your wisdom and desire for what's best for our community. In Christ's name, amen.
One thing that I asked to do before I step out of office is I wanted to do a proclamation before I left. And, excuse me, my thing wasn't on. One thing I asked to do was a proclamation before I left office. It would be the last thing I did here before I turn over the mayor's seat to Mr. McNeil. Would the ROSINIs please step forward? One of those things y'all hear me joke about doing all the whereas, drop them up here with me. A couple of weeks, we probably get a month ago. It's the general business we have here in our community. People come from miles around and sit down and have some food, and some very good wine, and have fun with their friends. I met this young lady that night, and she said, I will come to the business for it. I never met you. She's so joyful and fun. And I found out, not only is she the daughter of Rachel, she's going to be the face of her behind it. She's coming in there helping them in family business. I was thinking about it. Thursday, we had a 16th. Somebody has a birthday on May 16th. This is a proclamation. Whereas the city of McLendon-Chisholm seeks to support businesses and their employees that fit within our city, that we recognize the importance of family businesses within our community. And whereas the ROSINI vineyard and the ROSINI family are a unique opportunity for the citizens of McLendon-Chisholm to experience fine wine from the vine to the table. And whereas Amanda ROSINI, being one of 5 children of the ROSINI family, recently joined her parents at the ROSINI vineyard. And whereas having proficiency in accounting, business and managerial processes and procedures has become an integral part and asset to the family business. And whereas the ROSINI family has welcomed Amanda to the family business, thus continuing the next generation of ROSINI vineyard in McLendon-Chisholm. Now therefore, with the great pleasure that I, Keith Shield, Mayor of the City of McLendon-Chisholm, do hereby declare May 16, 2024 for somebody's birthday, Amanda ROSINI Day, and invite McLendon-Chisholm citizens to celebrate Amanda at ROSINI Vineyards on that day. Next thing is what you hear in every meeting. Rules of decorum are in effect. It just means treat each other with respect and be adults. That's all we ask. All right, next up, citizens' comments. The first one I have on here, I apologize. Sometimes the handwriting is a little hard to read. Tom that lives on Somerset. How do you pronounce your last name? Ritz. Okay, just want to make sure. All right, you're first up.
Thought it was on. I want to congratulate. Okay. I want to congratulate all the newly elected members of the City Council. And I hope and pray that they will bring with them a new spirit of transparency and integrity, which has been missing for at least the last couple of years and probably farther back than that. As an example of what I'm talking about, today I got my, what is this name? Infomark. I used to get my trash from CWD. And this first bill I got says it's from November 30th to December 31st. I looked at that and I said, oh, I already paid for that because I pay for 3 months in advance to CWD. Well, I called them up and they said, you still owe it. You're double billing me. I refuse. So now they're charging me $30 in penalty for not paying for something that I didn't know in the first place. So why on earth does the city have to take over a perfectly good private enterprise? Now, Ronald Reagan said, I'm from the government. I'm here to help you. And then in the next sentence, he said, run away as far and as fast as you can. Well, here in Rockwall, we're supposed to be one of the most conservative places in the country. Yet, making the city bigger is not conservative. In fact, it's the opposite of conservative. You know, I could go back and talk about when I first moved here and I found out that we didn't have fire protection because somebody decided that they're going to get rid of the existing volunteer fire department and get our own. Well, we have between 2,000 and 3,000 people in the city, and I'm wondering, is that big enough to support a building, getting all the stuff in it, hiring people, and jacking up more things for the city to do? Well, in my opinion, no. Now, the next thing that's trying to be done, the city's trying to take over RCH. Well, I think that's a misbegotten thing. The city has showed their inexperience and their incompetence by they've submitted something 3 times to the Public Utilities Commission, and 3 times it came right back. And the last time, the city had a certain amount of time to respond, and the city didn't respond. So I guess, and I hope, it's over and done with. Well, anyway, I could go on and on about other things, but those are the things that really gripe me and that I want to see changed. Thank you.
David, you're up. David Black, you're up.
look out for this thing. Bites. Yeah. My name's David Black. I'm at 1419 Sienna Lane, McLendon-Chisholm. If I go louder, it's going to feedback. Just a question on the land use. I couldn't find any information on this. It's going to be a public hearing, so I'm just going to listen intently. I suppose we get a presentation. And I'm wondering if the land use is going to go into the comprehensive plan or it's something totally separate. Anyway, that's my extent of that part. Greenbrier Homes, it was nice to see that the concerned citizens were heard, and they've totally changed what they're going to do, and I hope they're happy with it, these residents nearby that area. That's public hearing. Oh, consideration of action adopting a resolution. It all looks good. Legally, I'm wondering what it means to say, Section 2, no items may be added to the agenda of the City Council with no more than 2 persons from the City Council, the mayor, or the city manager. It's 2 double negatives. I'm not a legal person, but I would normally would say items may be added to the agenda with 2 or more persons sponsoring it. I think that's the same thing, but maybe not, because I'm not sure. That's it. Oh, congratulations to the outgoing, who served us well for a long time. And congratulations to the newly elects, which is wonderful and excellent. And I hope to see lots of good transparency, which I am sure we will have.
I apologize if I butcher your last name. Jude, is it Chabot? Jabot, okay. Sorry.
I'm Jude Shabbat. I live in Sonoma Verde on Arizo Lane. This is my business. I just wanted to come and build this for the newly elected mayor of McLendon-Chisholm, Brian McNeil. On behalf of me and my company, I just want to present this to you. Obviously, Mr. Short, thank you for your service and your time. And yeah, that's all I have. Congratulations and welcome. Yes, sir. Quick pick.
All right, Bev, you're up.
Good evening, Mayor, current and incoming council. First of all, my name is Bev Stibbins, and I live at 279 Partridge Drive in McLendon-Chisholm. I would like to thank the outgoing council members for their service. It is sometimes a thankless job, and we appreciate what you have done. And I would like to congratulate and welcome the incoming new members. I am here to speak tonight about item 7.5. Should be no surprise to any of you. I have spoke on it several times. So my comments are for the current and the incoming council. Do not be intimidated by the threat of a lawsuit to reconsider a small lot subdivision in the heritage center of our town. The comprehensive plan and the citizens have clearly spoke on the desire of nothing smaller than 1-acre lots. We have an excellent city attorney who can represent us in court against this type of legal action. As one of those citizens who have been very strongly advocated for the 1 acre, I would much rather have the city budget spent on defending our comp plan rather than supporting an incomplete water application. Thank you.
All right, there's no more. There's no more forums for citizens' comments, so the time is 6:50. Citizens' comments are closed for the evening. Before we get to the consent agenda, I would get kicked in the butt by several people that are in this audience if I did not remember to say something. Yesterday actually started National Police Week, and that's to honor our law enforcement officers that have fallen in the line of duty. It was bestowed down by the president to be during this time in May. There are a lot of officers throughout the United States and internationally that all descended on Washington, D.C. over the weekend to recognize the fallen. If you've never had a chance to go, you'll be in tears. From the bagpipers to the drum and bugle corps to everybody wearing their uniforms with pride and the honor guards that show up. This week is National Police Week, and I just want to remember to honor all of them. And like I said, I get kicked in the butt if I didn't, because we have 2 retired law enforcement officers sitting in this audience. One of them will become one of your council members in the next few minutes. Guys, we've all lost brothers and sisters in blue. This is to honor them. Thank you.
Mayor Short, if I may point out, we also have a widow in the audience tonight. Erin Ragsdale lost her husband, 5/24/18, end of watch. Erin, thank you for being here tonight.
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry I did not know you were here. All right, moving on to the consent agenda, 6.1, 6.2, and 6.3. I'll entertain a motion to approve all 3 of those unless there is any reason that a council member wants to bring one of those off of there.
I'd like to move to approve the consent agenda.
All right, I've got a motion to, I just need a second.
Second.
There is no discussion. All in favor? Aye.
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 Show that unanimous. All right, we'll move on to 7.1. It's review and action regarding a resolution canvassing the returns of the general election held on May 4th, 2024 for the purpose of electing a mayor to serve a 2-year term and 2 council members, place 2 and place 4, to serve 2-year terms, and 1 council member to fill the 1-year unexpired term of place 1. The results of that election: for mayor, Ryan McNeil, 739 votes. For Adrian Balcom, 180 votes. For council member place 1, which was Paul Day, 776 votes. For council member place 2, which was Michael Easter, 704 votes. For council member place 4, Jerry Brewer, 702. I'll read Trudy's vote. Trudy had bowed out previous to the election happening, but it was not in enough time to remove her name from the ballot, but she still got 180 votes. With that being said, this is the official count for it, so I will show that this is fair, honest, and legal. I need a motion from the council to approve what I have just read to you, and a second.
A motion to approve the resolution canvassing the returns of the general election held on May 4th, 2024 for the purpose of electing a mayor to serve a 2-year term and 2 council members place 2 and 4 to serve 2-year terms and 1 council member to fill the 1-year unexpired term of place 1.
All right, there's a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, if there's no discussion, all in favor? Aye.
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 Show that unanimous.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
prior to the swearing in, we have just a quick thing for you and Mayor Pro Tem Balcom, is if you're okay with that?
Yes, sir. All right, folks, the next agenda item, and I did not say anything beforehand, but we do have an honored and distinguished guest in here tonight. That is the county judge, not you, Jimmy. It is the county judge, Frank New. Frank, if you'll come up here, because the next thing in is swearing in the newly elected mayor and our council members.
if you'll indulge me, I wanted to read something, and then when I finish that, I was going to give a 5-minute recess for everybody to be able to say congratulations to whom they came out here to see. So I wanted to read this. Good evening. Thank you all for coming tonight to see the swearing in of Paul Day, Michael Easter, and Jerry Brewer to council. Thank you to Judge New for taking the time out and to be here tonight. It is an absolute honor to have my friend and mentor be here to swear me in as mayor, and I thank you so much, Judge New, for doing that. What does that mean to me? It means the bridge is here. We are in a positive atmosphere where we learn from one another, respect one another's opinions and ideals. We value the views that each bring to the table, and we do so with the people's interest at heart. How do we do that? We're going to do that by being engaged. We're going to go out and not just talk to our neighbors, but we're going to have coffee on Monday mornings. We're going to have meetups. We're going to step up, and we are going to not only show that we can do more, but that we will do more. There is more to serving the people than sitting behind a desk in an office. The office is most effective outside of this building and being in front of you and hearing your input and doing the work on your behalf. It is time to heal and to know that we have been divided. We did not get to this division by accident. We got here with intent. We will not fix this division by accident. We will, however, fix it with intent. There is something to be said when we speak on we the people, and that it stands for, and I'm going to take a quote from my good friend Judge New. It's just being a good neighbor. I believe in this council. I believe in the talents, the skills, and the mindset that each bring to this table. The backgrounds are so diverse, and they should challenge each one of us to be better, to be engaged, to listen, to respect, and remember that our oath is to you and not to the one on our right or left. For my family, thank you for the patience in which you have shown during this campaign. There is no greater foundation than when you have the support at home. My wife has watched many sleepless nights as I would prepare the next day at all hours of the night. My stepdaughter, Chelsea, who probably knows many of you here by name and has never even met you. To my daughter, Caitlin, whom I, as your father, will always protect you and love you. She had to unfairly endure her name to be brought into this. So thank you to my family for staying in the fight with me. And to my mom and other family members who cannot be here tonight, thank you. To my many friends that stood with me from the ideal should we run, I cannot thank you enough. And there are so many names that I can call out. All I can just do is say thank you. But I would be remiss. We're going to get that fixed, y'all. If I didn't take a minute to thank the Londons and to again recognize Judge Frank New. Thank you, Judge New and Dennis London, for being here. My veteran community that stood behind me, beside me, and in front of me with endorsements and words of encouragement and advice. But most of all, thank you to you, the people. I am so humbled by the overwhelming show of support at the polls, and my accountability is to you. I will not forget why I'm here, and I will not forget what I am asked to do. Your voice will be heard, and your voice will matter. And while we may not always get it right up here, you can rest assured that we will always try. And when we mess up, we will own our mistakes and we will seek self-improvement, for you always deserve our best, because you are the best in my mind that Rockwall has to offer. This is our town, and it is because of you that it is what it is. In closing, I'm going to say Proverbs 27:17, as you saw on Jude Shabbat's flag that he gave me. So as iron sharpens iron, sharpens another. This is McLendon-Chisholm. We help one another. Thank you for coming. God bless America. God bless Texas. And may God bless this city of McLendon-Chisholm. And with that, I will take a 5-minute recess so y'all can congratulate the people here. We're going to go ahead and reconvene. So it is 7:21. We're going to go ahead and reconvene. We'll be doing 7.3. It's the public hearing on land use assumptions, capital investment plan, McLendon-Chisholm roadway impact fees. Conrad, are you speaking on this? Seven three.
Just to give a brief info of where we're at it, and then what's a public hearing.
Can you all hear me? Okay. Yeah. So we have formed our CIAC committee, and so we have Pete from Kimley Horn, who is our consultant, who has been working with us, and so he's just going to kind of provide a brief overview of the process, where we are in the process, and then next steps.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Congratulations, and for new mayor and new council members, it's an honor to be part of your first agenda item tonight. Yeah, just to give you a brief overview of where we are. I was last here in March to go over the draft roadway impact fee study. And just to introduce myself again, I'm Pete Kelly with Kimley Horn, transportation engineer. So we went over a detailed presentation over the roadway impact fees in March. At that time, we also formed the Capital Improvements Advisory Committee, or the CIAC, which is constituted of members of P&Z. And they since have been very active. They've met twice already. We've met with them once, and we've received some comments. So just wanted to let you know that of the comments we received, we're going to be complying with those comments. They've also submitted a list of questions to us. We're providing a list of responses to those questions back as well. We're also meeting with them again next Tuesday. That's part of the adoption process, is that we meet with the CIAC and that they provide you those comments, which you should have received those as well. This is the first of 2 public hearings that are required to be had as part of the roadway impact fee adoption process. So the second one and the final one will be in June, on June 25th. Just to go over some of the most impactful comments from CIAC, from their feedback, is they recommended increasing our residential growth assumptions as part of the land use assumptions, because that's the subject of tonight's public hearing, is the land use assumptions and the capital improvements plan. So we're in the process of increasing the land use assumptions by about 600 units over the next 10 years. Again, just a reminder, that's a projection of what may happen. It's not something that's going to drive growth. It's something that's going to prepare you should that growth happen. One of the comments was also to consider increasing the maximum trip length in our calculations from 4 miles to 6 miles. We did that as well in our report, so that'll be coming in the draft report. What that does is it changes the amount of vehicle miles that are projected based on the growth of the next 10 years. So where we are with the land use assumptions is we're projecting 3,074 units over the next 10 years. And there's been no changes to the non-residential land use assumptions that you're presented in March. Also, the CIP, or the Capital Improvements Plan, there's been no changes to that since you last saw it in March. The next steps for this plan, again, is we're meeting with CIC next Tuesday, and we'll be back for the second public hearing in June, on June 25th. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete.
So, Mayor, with that introduction, we just need to hold a public hearing.
And that's being scheduled, or?
No, it's been
It's right.
scheduled, it's been published in the newspaper, general circulation, meeting the state requirement days that we needed to do it. The CIAC has met, and now it's open to the overall
is our-
public.
Right,
This
this
is
is
our
our first
public
one.
right
We have
now
another one.
to hear about land, if anybody has any comments on land use assessments, capital improvement plan as it relates to our roadway impact fee. Mayor, this isn't a question and answer, it isn't a debate, it isn't a discussion. It's if any community member wants to comment on this agenda item, that's, you open a public hearing, and if nobody comments, nobody comments. If they do, they do. So that's what it is. It's just a public hearing to hear, so you can make better decisions at the end of the process. You hear from the community. It's what state law requires.
Okay, then we are going to open it up for that public hearing.
There we go. Sherry London, 216 Harvest Ridge Drive. I appreciate that this is a public hearing. However, none of the materials were published in the agenda packet. So for the public to comment on something they have not been able to review, I think is problematic.
So on this agenda item, when we looked it over, there is no supporting documents for the people to speak on. Can you help me understand why that wasn't included? And, you know, if that's not included and the people don't have everything, this is what I talk about when we if we mess something up, we got to make it right. So if this is, I wouldn't want to count this as a first public hearing if the public wasn't allowed to have everything they could to look at. And
Totally understand. The portion of the public was given at our last city council meeting. So all that information was in the packet, was provided when we set the public hearing. It was all set out for anybody to grab then and prepare for this night. The CIAC notes they were their own comments, a special committee that the state sets up or requires to be set up, and they gave you their comments. So by us giving out it when we set the public hearing, it was a big document that was based on this. And the purpose that it was given out then is so any resident that was interested could come and speak toward that subject matter.
Okay, so just to make sure I understand, the last council when this was brought out, the packet was in that agenda item when we announced to have this as our public hearing. So then what my point is, I want to make sure that the public did have an opportunity to get that at the last council, and we did afford that opportunity.
Yes, sir. When we set the public hearing, that's when we gave out that packet. It's just a public hearing for you to receive comments.
So I think, from what I understand, folks, is the last council meeting, there was, the packet was put in there. So Mr. Kippett?
Maybe I can help illuminate this process. So the CIAC, worst acronym in the world, Capital Improvement Advisory Committee, met and we all read the document, reviewed it. The document should be made available to the public, and I guess I'm surprised that didn't take place. In the document, per state law, the only thing we were to comment on in this first public hearing is the land use assumptions, and that's basically the future land use map, looking at it, what is known development, how many homes would be developed. As I think you just heard from the representative from Kimley-Horn, we raised concerns about the number of units that were projected over the next 10 years, that it was too conservative, too low, and that that would then drive all the resulting calculations in terms of amount of recovery fees that would be charged. And then the other concerns was really about the trip miles, which we didn't think reflected the geography of McLendon-Chisholm That was also, as you just heard, addressed. Now, we've had a number of other questions on the study, which we haven't had an opportunity to interact with Kimley Horn to listen to it. I think the angst you're hearing appropriately is that they don't understand what the intent of this document does, right? What it leads to. So that's, I apologize, I can't really offer any suggestions or remedies on that. But it is a well-prepared study. Just, I think some of the key assumptions behind the study that we agreed to needed to be readdressed, which it sounds like they are being readdressed.
Okay, so, and this isn't a question for Mark, this is maybe back to the staff. So my concern is still if I understand that it was in the last packet, I understand it was announced right, but I mean, wouldn't it make sense? What if someone didn't see the April 9th one or the last council one where it was presented, and then they see this one, but they don't have an idea of what they're speaking on? That to me would be a concern, even though we did things. If you're telling me we did it and that's the right procedure, what about the people who didn't get afforded that opportunity? So I guess my question is, shouldn't we always make sure everything's in the packet anyways? I don't think that's doing a redundancy of work. I just think that's just doing what's right.
No, we have no problem as staff to include it, and we'll include it for the next public hearing. But we have, and you have, every council member has a schedule that came right out of state law for impact fees. Kimley Horn has put that schedule together in a step-by-step items pulled right out of state law. One of the items was to create a CIAC. So state law said first, look, if you're going to do an impact fee, we want you to make it definitely available to your residents. And so why did they say that? They always lean toward the public. They always lean toward public, for the public to hear and to receive information. So not only did they say you have to hold 2 public hearings and produce 2 documents for those, and we set the public hearing. So we had a council meeting where we told everybody we're going to have a public hearing, which is required by state law, and we provided the packet for everybody when we said, hey, we're going to have this public hearing, and all the council got it in their packets. Then we published it in the newspaper for 16 days prior, a newspaper general circulation. And that will happen again with the next public hearing. We'll set the public hearing, and then we will hold the public hearing. So it's not at the same time. We're telling people beforehand, then we're following exactly what state law has told us to do. The CIAC is another way that the state law has said, not only do you send it out to the regular general population and to your council, we want you to set up another silly acronym committee to review all this stuff. And so to the people we sent it out, creation of a committee we did, and they reviewed it and gave comments, and then we're holding a public hearing for that. Is it the end of the story? No, you heard from the very start that there's another public hearing that's going to be held on June 25th. And it's going to be on everything. Specifically, it's going to be on the fees, which is another subject of what is being reviewed. And you'll receive more comments on that area from the CIAC as well. So I think the state has tried to go overboard in their requirements to let the residents know they're seeking. We're here open every day, so we're willing to do it, but we absolutely are not against, as you mentioned, Mr. Mayor, putting additional stuff, going past what state law has asked us to do, and putting that in. And we'll take that advice for the next one, and we'll put everything that we have up until next thing, which will be the final public hearing, the second and final. We'll have everything in the packet for that. So
As a member of the public, the March 26th City Council meeting has on the consent agenda to set public hearing number 1 on land use assumptions and capital improvement plan. There is nothing linked on that item. However, there is an item 6.1 roadway impact fee and 6.2 roadway impact fee developing the CIAC. However, to a member of the public, I do not see how roadway impact fee and CIAC connect with LUA and CIP. If that's what it is, it's not made clear to the members of the public that those things are linked. So I will agree with Conrad that the information is there. However, as a member of the public, it was not clear to me that 6.1 and 6.2 were linked to this public hearing that is now happening tonight. So, for what it's worth.
I can assure you folks, we're going to fix this mic system. It's insane. So this is what I call us in a pickle, because I understand what the people are saying, but I understand we posted. Hala, I'd like to see if you can give me some feedback on this, because if we did what we were required to do by law, you know, we can't overstep law, but I have a very big heart to hear what the people are saying, and they don't feel like they got what they should have got. But if by law we put it there and we made it confusing, then maybe on the next hearing we need to make it not so confusing. But if you can give us direction on how we could probably solve this problem.
Okay, so a few, I mean not several, but a few things. One, I saw this on the agenda, and I talked to Asa via email, and I sent him a very detailed list of the procedure, and we talked about it, and it was a good talk via email, a very detailed procedure of the potential to adopt a impact fees, okay? And so I saw the public hearing, and I was a little bit concerned, because the way I read the statute is that, hey, you know what, you can have a public hearing after there's a recommendation for land use assumptions and a CIP. Well, we haven't done that part yet. And it looks to me like the public hearing is subsequent to that. So my question was, there is no law that says you can't have 47 public hearings if you want. And so I was very specific in my question to Asa, and I said, hey, look, this public hearing looks to me, with the way it's statute, a little out of order. Is this the only public hearing that we're having? He emailed back and said, no, this is just kind of have people to get, you know, familiar with it if they have questions. Just in general, it's not like we haven't talked about impact fees before, so people have questions or comments or whatever. I said, oh, if we're still going to have a public hearing subsequent to the other steps in the order of the process I laid out for ASA, then okay, I'm good with that. There's nothing wrong with having an extra public hearing. Now, I didn't know where the information was located or anything like that, but it does sound like that it was a little confusing to figure out where to find it with this public hearing. So yeah, when I advise when we do get to that step in the process where we're going to have the public hearing, where we're going to go on, we'll probably need to make it a little easier to find for the public. Got to agree with that.
Okay, so with that said, what my thinking is, and I'll let council help me figure this one out. If we make a promise to the people, and that's who we serve, and if one of them is confused or if 100 of them are confused, that's just enough for me to say, okay, hey, look, we need to reassess this, do it right, make sure it's not so confusing, make sure we have everything included in there. And it just you can't build trust if we already are walking into it going, you know, I don't want to juggle apples. So let's just redo it. And if we have to add a second, or in this case, I guess rather a third public hearing, we'll just call this one, as it sounded like someone said, familiarizing ourselves with this or unfamiliarizing ourselves with something people didn't really understand. And I think that might be the safest bet. See what council has to say, or if you have any addition, Holland.
Just actually, Mr. Mayor, what you pointed out, I think is a good thing. So, hey, you know what? Since we're doing an extra public hearing that's not required by law, you know what? Let's make all our mistakes now. Since this is kind of a free, if you will, public hearing, and you know we figure out, oh, you know what? The way to, and again, I only know what I'm finding out here tonight about the information. So it's kind of like, oh, well, you know what? Hey, this is not the best way to get the information out to the people. Maybe that's what the public hearing is, and that's the benefit of the public hearing is, hey, we want to know about impact fees, but you need to do a better job and a more efficient way of telling us. That is a worthwhile public hearing. Again, this one's not required by law, so I only say that to let everyone know, hey, breathe, it's calm, it's okay. We're still in the process of potentially adopting impact fees, or we're doing it the right way. That's why I want to assure the council this is not an illegal or improper way to do it. In fact, this would be considered, you know, kind of like a practice run public hearing. So I'm glad we make the mistakes now. We fix the mistakes now, and then boom, when the real public hearing is later in the process, we got to figure it out.
Oh, that one. I'm in agreement with Mayor McNeil, but just to be clear, there's no one that would assert some sort of injury if we did this. No one has any interest on this.
Oh, no, Mr. Councilmember Easter, you know people can assert and say, hey, I was injured. That doesn't make it true. Okay. So what you're really asking me is, do I believe, in my opinion, that someone has a real actual injury? Absolutely not. Even if it was a public hearing and we were in that process, we're still in the middle of the process. So no one has any Chapter 245 vested rights in all of that. So I hope that answers the question.
It was pretty clear.
So moving forward, what would be very helpful when these things are up for the open meetings, public forum, is provide the packet. Just provide it. It's real easy to do. It is under the PowerPoint 6.1 on March 26th, the report. But again, whenever we're looking for things, it's always very conveniently provided on the table, even if you missed it on the minutes. But when you post the agenda, or not the minutes, when you post the agenda, if we're having a public meeting about it, then just post that PowerPoint again. And there you go. That'll solve everything. Thanks.
Mayor, if I can let you know, we can have this on our next May 29th agenda, and we'll include the packet with it. We can have another public hearing, and there's no reason why you can go. I mean, and I also want to say, as staff, I keep hearing you did it wrong. Staff did it completely right and followed state law. Are there better ways to doing it? We've discussed yes. And in our city, we want to do it better. We want to be more informed. We want to go even deeper than state law requires to get our public to understand these issues. Perfectly fine. You can't just not do what state law says, but you can do more. And that's what I hear you saying, and we'll have it on the next agenda with the packet.
Very good. So that will that make the people happy, I hope. So we'll call that one a day.
May I ask just one quick question? It's not going to mar our schedule at all that we're punting this at all? We're completely on schedule. If we do that, it's not a problem? We're good? Okay. I just want to make sure it doesn't impact us.
Because don't forget that and that's what I checked out with ASA, this is not required. This public hearing, if we never had this, we're fine, we're good. Right, this one tonight, where it is not required by law. Again, that was my main concern when I saw the process, and like, wait a minute, we look like we got the cart before the horse on the public hearing. But talking to Asa, he's like, no, we just want to do an extra one. We've got it's not a secret, we've got a very active community, so we want to hear from people earlier in the process. So I want to stress to the council, we're good.
So no actions being taken on 7.3 is correct. So we're going to close the hearing on 7.3. Is that good? So folks, I made a campaign promise that I would not do executive sessions. So I did not sign off on this particular council. So this next council is the one I get to sign off on. So this council was signed off on Mayor Short. They have a scheduled 7:30 call that we're already 15 minutes late to. in the back. So we're going to adjourn to executive session. Did I read that? Yep. So 7.5, we're going to discuss the letter threatening litigation received from the attorney for the applicant on the proposed plan development zoning district commonly known as Legacy Park Estates, which was considered and denied on or about March 26, 2024 by the City Council of McLendon-Chisholm. With executive session 551-961, consultation with attorney, and 551.086, we'll be in executive session at 7:47. folks. It's 8:24. We are back from executive session. There was no action taken in executive session. We did, however, confer with the water attorney, and we were able to confer on 7.5. But again, no action is taken, and that's where that's at. So we will be moving on to item 7.6, public hearing on the Ryan Webb Greenbrier Homes zoning district change for property generally located east of the intersection of State Highway 205 and League Road from the SF 2.5 residential zoning district and a GB general business zoning district to a planned development district for the development of 8 single-family lots, each 2.5 acres of land. So we will open up the public hearing at 8:25. If no one is going to speak on that, then we will close the public hearing at 8:26. And we will move on to 7.6. I'm sorry, excuse me, 7.7. It's my first night, so might be a little nerves. 7.7, consideration and action of the request of Ryan Webb Greenbrier Homes for property generally located east of the intersection of State Highway 205 and League Road for approval of a zoning district change from the SF 2.5 residential zoning district and a GB general business zoning district to a planned development district for the development of 8 single-family lots, each with a lot size of 2.5 acres of land, in consideration of an ordinance approving the request.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. So the request for this is the applicant is requesting approval of a zoning district change from SF 2.5 residential zoning district and a GB general business zoning district to a planned development district for the development of 8 single-family lots, each with a lot size of 2.5 acres of land. This application is administratively complete and in conformity with the recommendations of the McLendon-Chisholm Comprehensive Plan. The Planning and Zoning recommendation is approval of the zoning district change with conditions as set forth in the staff report, which include for lots 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, reduce the required minimum street frontage and lot width from 300 linear feet to 150 linear feet for each of the residential lots. That concludes my staff report for this item, and I do believe that Mr. Webb is here, and I will turn it over to him for any questions that you may have.
Mr. Webb.
Hello, my name is Brian Webb. I'm the owner of Greenbrier Homes. We own 20 acres on League Road that is currently split into 2 zoning districts, residential 2.5 and general business commercial. I applied for a PD last year to use this residential portion for building homes and a commercial portion to start a small business. Many neighbors came to the city meetings and voiced their opposition to the plan of having a business off of League Road. So I'm trying in the spirit of a good neighbor to change my plans to appease the wishes of the neighbors. I've reapplied for a PD now to change the commercial portion of my land, which is only about 5% of the 20 acres, to also be used as residential 2.5 acre lots for new custom homes. The city planner and staff recommended approval and pointed out that the zoning change request conforms to the comprehensive plan. The P&Z board unanimously recommended approval to the city council. So I ask now that the council will approve this PD. If you have any questions for me, thank you.
Council, I'll open it up for any questions.
Yeah, as I see this, and I might be wrong on the reading, is that you're applying for a rezoning. And as part of that process, I mean, you're asking for that, but in the latter portion of the packet on this, you're also asking at the same time acceptance and approval of a concept and development plan, are they not to be separated? Are those not to be separated? Because if he's got a concept plan going on here, I mean, he's asking for rezoning, I get that part. But now he's introduced a concept plan and a developmental plan as part of this. Am I missing something that we have? Are they two different entities, or does one come with the other and they can't be separated? Or I'm missing this altogether? Mr. Howell, maybe you can help me out on this, clarify what I'm actually trying to.
It was presented to me that in the code to apply for a PD that you present a concept plan and a development plan with your application. So
Okay.
it's part of the application process to have both of those.
So one comes along with the other. Is this correct, Asa?
Correct. They go together. So like the concept plan and the development plan were submitted together.
Okay.
And we'll move on to a plat after a zoning change approval or not.
Okay, so you'll be more definitive in terms of what you're actually going to do
Right, the
there.
plat would be,
At
the
plating.
final, everything. That's why the concept plan is called concept.
Yeah, and so the preliminary plat will be more descriptive and specific.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
If it helps too, the plat could never be approved unless it conforms with the zoning. That's why you did zoning first before the plat.
That part I get. So it was just a concept plan. I really didn't see a concept plan other than an aerial view of cutout of the parcels themselves. And there's nothing conceptual about that. That's how it's laid out. Beyond, page 51 for me, where I'm looking at the aerial view. But I mean, I don't see any buildings or layouts of structures or anything of that sort. So, okay, I'll let that lie then. You're also asking the process for the frontage to be reduced with this rezoning from 300 to 150 feet on the frontage.
Correct. That's one reason why it's a PD and not just a zoning change. Is
Gotcha.
We're getting the commercial removed and the lot width corrected all at once. In a PD.
And that's a little bit of my apprehension, because when I'm looking down at the future is with a PED, because PEDs, to my knowledge, are much more flexible in terms of what you can do with the properties. And so that being the case, is there a foreboding of you dividing these properties up to 125s? Because it's not going to be a SF 2.5 now, it's going to be a PED. And so are you looking at further breaking these properties down and maybe having them, instead of having 8 units, you're going to have 16 units in the future? Is that a feasible outcome after?
There's another part of the application called the development standards page, which is page 42, I believe, in your packet. And it goes under development standards, land use, and it talks about dividing the property. All that's in there in the development section, the development standards.
So you're saying that you're
it
not
has that specifics in there
you're
in the
not
application.
intending on doing that, nor does it allow it to be done. Is that what you're saying?
Is what allowed to be done? What are you?
To further subdivide those properties, each one of those properties.
The development standard says that these properties cannot be subdivided below 2.5. No, they cannot.
Okay.
Yeah, it does say that it can't. And it does say specifically for residential use.
And those were two things that the Planning and Zoning Commission
Asked
requested that I put in here, which I did.
Yeah, I just, again,
because they were concerned about
there's a
that.
lot of flexibility in PDs. I don't want to be misled that it's just going to be, these 8 properties, when in fact, because of the flexibility of the PDs, you can do other things.
And
it's
so-
not a straight SF 2.5. in other
Correct.
words,
And so,
which would limit these to just 8 individual properties.
correct. And then even in the ordinance, the Planning and Zoning Commission was very specific. Obviously, there is one section that says this will never, it won't change from a non-residential use. So we won't ever have to worry about general business, less than 2.5 acres. The P&Z was very specific on getting this in that ordinance together. So all of that has been covered in the development standards.
Okay, thank you.
Sir, thank you for standing before us and answering some of these questions. I'm a little perplexed over the 150-foot width. What is your vision for these properties? I see them here. I've talked to some of my neighbors and colleagues about this, so, just to kind of figure out what your vision is for how this is going to be laid out. Why not have a 300-foot wide lot rather than 150?
The dimensions of this property, again, it's 20 acres, and it has so much road frontage. I believe it's a little over 1,800 square foot of road frontage. And if you divide that by 300, you can't get down to 2.5 acre lots. You can only get to about 5 acres. And so in order to make 2.5 acre lots, we need to have a width of 150 feet to be able to do that because of how long the property is compared to how wide it is. So it's a mathematical reason for 1 point. To have 2.5 acre lots, they'd have to be 150 foot wide. If they were 300 foot wide, you could only have 4, and they'd be 5 acres instead of 8 lots. If you look at the concept, if you look at the concept plan, I hope you can see that the 8 lots, how they're divided up. If you take them twice as wide, you can't have 2.5 acre lots.
Sorry, sir. I realize I was imprecise in my question. What I'm getting at is subdividing it into 8 lots, 2.5 acres per lot, but with 300-foot frontages, and then you would have a separate service, a road that takes it back into the 4 lots in the back. So you'd have 4 up front, 4 up in the back, as opposed to 8 very lengthy lots. I mean, these are 150 feet by just short of 800 feet, I think, right?
The depth's about 725 feet.
725, thank you.
But yeah, I mean, you're talking about a completely different design with different roads and such. To be able to do something like that, you'd have people's backyards facing the street then or each other. And so, I mean, yeah, you could add more streets and change lot designs, but that would be a different plan completely.
Yeah, I guess that's my point is, what is motivating this specific plan as opposed to going with this alternative that I'm bringing up?
I think the best thing as far as why we want these roads facing the street instead of each other's backyards is why. We don't want people's houses all turned around facing each other and facing the back, but I mean, to me personally, I think it's more valuable of a lot to face League Road than to face the back of somebody else's lot. But also, the city planner had pointed out that the 2.5 zoning requirement of 300 foot wide matches the 5 acre zoning requirement, 5 residential 5 acres of 300 foot wide, yet the 1 acre goes down to, I believe, 100. And so it makes sense to have a staggering number between each zoning district type. So the 1 acre lot should be 100 foot wide. The 2.5 acre lot should be 150 foot wide standard in their zoning. And that's something the previous city planner said that the city thought they were probably going to change in the future. And then the 5 acre lot has the 300 foot wide requirement. And so it just makes sense when you're going to have different residential zoning districts. If they're going down in size, their width requirement would go down with it.
And ultimately, for access on these properties, I'm just trying to think in terms of land use and how folks would occupy these properties. This is very interesting. I know of no other property that's shaped like this in the entire county.
Oh, these are rectangular lots, or?
I mean, 725 by 150. I don't know of anybody else that has something like that. So you're going to have a driveway or something going to the back, or?
With again, the development standards basically copy the 2.5 acre residential zoning requirements, which is a 75-foot setback, and so you have a driveway from League Road to your garage in your house typically.
I guess I'm trying to penetrate a little bit further. What is your vision for these properties?
8 new custom homes facing League Road with a driveway accessing their house to the road.
And setback approximately how far do you
It's
anticipate?
it's 75 feet. It's stated in the PD.
I understand. That's a minimum setback.
And that's what the residential 2.5 standard is 75 feet.
Thank you.
Setback. Thank you.
A lot of this comes down to saving them some money though, right? Because if you add road infrastructure to redo the deal to have 8 wider lots, you're going to have to add a service road in there, and that's going to be some extra cost.
I don't know where this extra road is the
Yeah,
idea
well,
because there's, I mean, if you put a road, I guess, halfway back and then split it, you'd have houses facing each other and then the backyards facing League Road. I don't think that's aesthetically pleasing to the League Road at all. I mean, yes, it costs more, but that's not the only reason why I don't think that would make much sense. As far as the width, 150 foot wide is a large width for a home to be placed on. Most homes are average 70, 75 feet wide. So there's 50 feet easily between these houses, which is more than, most 2.5 zoning requirements would have or equal to.
I don't have a problem with it. I mean, honestly, I just asking a question, but I've been to the meetings. This is my first one as a council person, okay? But I've been to the meetings where you've stood up here before, and we've had folks from League Road talk, and I do appreciate the fact that you're being flexible with your property, and
Changed the whole plan, basically,
yes,
to accommodate it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I'm not gonna have a problem supporting this at all. Thank you.
Does anybody have anything else?
The only issue, it's a lot of information, it's a lot to take in and think about. It's interesting, it's different. It's definitely different. It's a different concept. And the question is this something that we want to make a determination on today? Or can we pause it, pick it up in 2 weeks after we hear from people about it? Because they didn't come out here. I don't think they even knew that this was happening. I mean, it's your call, Mayor. It's your call, Mayor.
I waited a month and a half since the P&Z meeting to have this meeting with public notices presented in the paper as properly done. I feel like I did go through the process of a public hearing that nobody came to speak to.
Okay, so I'll add this. So one of the things that I have ran my campaign on, as well as promised to people, as well as the League Road people, is that when we have hearings, I've always been on the mindset of we can have the hearing, and I agree with Councilmember Day that sometimes it's okay to pause. I understand you have a timeline, but we have a timeline that answers to the people, not to the developers, right? And that's always going to be my stance. I'll finish real quick. I promise you I'll give you the floor, I promise. I don't think anyone's saying anything bad. Certainly Councilmember Day is not saying anything bad if he's saying, hey, I just want to double check with some people. Yes, there are some people here from League Road. Yes, they had an opportunity to speak. Yes, it was published in the paper, but we still have to make that call up here to say, hey, we're going to wait 2 weeks, right?
There was public notice given and nobody came and spoke.
Right, the public hearing's already been closed, so we've moved from the public hearing to this part of it. So if the public hearing part is closed, and on this part, no one said no. All they said is, we just want to double check with some things. I think we've all been forced into voting on things too quick sometimes by not hearing the whole story. And I know I've sat up here and said when I've done that, and I have no problem with making it right to people. And I don't think anyone's up here saying anything bad, Mr. Webb. Certainly, and I see the frustration on your face. I get it. I'm with you. But I also understand everyone up here took an oath to the people, not to Mr. Webb, right? And it's no shot at you. It's no shot at you. It's just that's who we answer to.
I'm not trying to be in conflict with what you're saying. I don't see what's going to be done and if there's a delay.
Okay,
if
so
there's no public hearing.
So if we voted no, then where are you at, right? You see what I'm saying? So I think I would probably say you'd want it best to have an opportunity to hear what people have to say. You might be surprised. You got one person up here supporting it.
I thought we did have a public hearing for people to hear what they had to say.
We did.
I was ready to hear
happened
them.
and it closed. It happened and it closed. So now we're on the vote side. So, Mr. Hollow, what would you think if we wanted to say, hey, we're going to wait 2 weeks? We have that option to table that. There's no timeline here, correct?
In tabling, because then you're stuck, because you have to table to a date certain, and you're always stuck with that date. So my view is, if council wants to hold off, and if they need more information, I understand what you said. We've got a new council, or several new council members. You're gonna wait, there's nothing wrong with that. As we've discussed before, 21106B and 21107C, those are the only real timelines as far as zoning. They're the, when you have to mail out the notices of people within 200 feet, 10 days before a P&Z public hearing on the zoning, and 15 days for the council. Those are really the only timelines.
And it's just, and it is respect. You have, in essence, two new members up here, and one who, he wasn't here for all of the League Road storage facility. He may have heard about it, but he wasn't on it. So you, in essence, you have three freshmen up here. I think it's very respectful to give them a couple of weeks just to make sure they're dotting the I's and crossing the T's.
If that's what they need, I'll be happy to give you the 2 weeks, and I would love to actually have a sit down with them individually if I can.
So we kind of frown upon that now. We're about transparency, right? So
if they need more information,
you would need two members. You cannot meet with one single member. You would have to figure out how to figure out getting two people to meet with you, and that's just because we owe that transparency to the people.
I'm here right now if you have any more questions for me then, in front of everybody.
I'm not understanding exactly what the concern is, specifically on why we're going to wait for 2 weeks. If we can clarify that. Because, yes, please clear that for me.
Absolutely. As just stated, we have three freshmen up here that need to kind of understand where this is all going. I think we owe them that respect. I also believe with our counsel, Mr. Holla advised that we are on no timeline. And I have promised the people in my campaign that I will not be rushed by a developer. And I said that at the beginning, that I'm okay with having a hearing and a vote the following council meeting. And that's, hopefully that answers you.
Okay, so Mr. Webb has gone through the process, changed his plan. We had a public hearing. He's come back, and now we're telling him, all right, we're going to wait. Then we're going to say, well, we got three freshmen at the table. It's not good enough. These gentlemen stepped into this seat. Day one, they need to be able to make a decision and figure it out. So right now, we're not giving due justice to the people or to our very well-educated, capable leaders up here on making this decision. Now, one of the problems we've had is we always push things. Well, let's wait 2 weeks. Well, let's wait 2 weeks. Well, we need to make decisions as leaders. And this is a time to do it. I'm with my man. Like, I agree. We need to move forward. That's all I got to say.
I'm not sure he said he would move forward. I think he said he would have the support. Where we're at on this is you have two council members to the right. One is not a freshman. He is seasoned, and he wants to have some time. I think if this went to a vote, it may not be in Mr. Webb's favor. I think we would be better off waiting 2 weeks, talking to the people, because that's who we answered to, Councilmember from McLendon, and that's who I at least answered to, and I know who my oath is to, and I'm gonna keep it to them. So I'm okay. I'll ask Mr. Holla how we have to word it correctly if it goes on the next agenda item. How do y'all feel about that, Councilmember Tucker and Councilmember Day?
No, I'm all for, I'm fine with postponing this. There's nothing that's going to be lost. It's 2 weeks. I think a little bit more knowledge would be beneficial. We've got a couple new people on board. Some of the terminology itself needs to be understood. And I appreciate the clarification from Mr. Webb alone on some things that all of a sudden, I should have known better. And certainly clarified in conjunction with what Asa said. So things like this, they seem simple on face value at times, but the reality is they get to be real complex real quickly for people that haven't ever confronted this before. So another 2 weeks, I don't think is going to do damage, and I think it'll be to the benefit of all.
Councilmember Day?
I mean, I second what Dan just said. You know, I would like to move the table it to specifically the 29th, and then have that determination made at that time. And with respect to the policy of meeting, he has offered to meet with us, and as I made it very clear, you know, I won't meet with the developer, certainly not by myself. But in conjunction, if that's something that we could put together, possibly talk to him about it and clear, is that something that we would be willing to do?
I'm absolutely all in favor of y'all reaching out, or Mr. Webb reaching out and having that time. I mean, that's what this 2 weeks would be for, I think. I think what you're hearing is people aren't saying no. I think what they're saying, they just want some time. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, if you have two council members in Day and Tucker that will sit down and talk with you, and I'm going to ask Mr. Easter what his input is, and we'll work it back down the line. But in my mind, I don't see nothing wrong with waiting 2 weeks. I know I would have made some different votes if I'd had 2 weeks.
I'll be happy to do that if that's what's needed to get the information correct. Yes, sir.
The other option might be for an individual city council member to meet with Mr. Webb with the city administrator at the same time, just to facilitate scheduling.
As long as there's two.
Yeah.
Mr. Easter, or Councilmember Easter, I apologize.
That's okay. I'm for deferring it at this point too. It sounds like Mr. Webb is in agreement with that, and I think we can get some input. I understand what Councilmember McLendon, his concerns in trying to get this thing moving, and keep it going forward, but I think it's reasonable at this juncture to get some additional input.
Can I say one more thing?
Absolutely.
I don't want this to come out the wrong way, but I'm changed my plans to make this all residential. And if that does get denied in respect, it's going back to being commercial again, because y'all will have rejected it to be residential. And so I'm trying to do what the citizens asked for, was to get rid of the commercial.
I would agree, and I would also be, if I were standing over there, I know I'd be probably more cautious, because we don't want to go back down that road. That road didn't work out for anybody. Councilmember McLendon, the floor is yours on this. If you have anything else to add, if not, I'll go to Councilmember Brewer. Councilmember Brewer.
I've already said I'm supportive, but I also defer to the other council that may want some more information on it, and I'm sure I'll probably have some extra questions between now and then. But as I said before, I've watched you come up here before over the last few months, so I'm fairly familiar with the story on it. But anyway, I appreciate your patience. Thank you.
And Mr. Webb, honestly, I want to see you get across the finish line. But I want to see you get across the finish line with everybody cheering you on, not going pitchforks and bonfires, right? I promise you, I think the outcome's always better when we do it right.
Again, to bring up the history, I got unanimous denial on my previous P&Z PD, and I got unanimous approval for this PD.
And I think you'll be good. Mr. Holla, how do we need to do this so I can have this on the next agenda item so that he doesn't have to have an indefinite wait period to have it on the 29th of May?
If council wants to, if they know we want it on a specific date, then somebody say, hey, I make a motion to table it to our meeting on blank blank, and then you wait for a second, and if there's a second and there's a vote and it passes, then it'll show up on our whatever date that meeting they said. Just make sure that we remind everybody to make a motion on the table.
Then I'll let somebody make that motion.
Yeah, I'd like to motion that we table item 7.7 to the date of May 29th for final consideration.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against say nay.
Nay.
Vote passes 4-1. We will move move on to item 7.8, public hearing for James Belt Gardner Construction Group requesting zoning district change for property generally located north of the intersection of State Highway 205 and FM 550 in the SF 25 residential zoning district and a GB general business district for the development of 2 commercial lots, each roughly 3 acres in size. So we will open that public hearing at 8:54. And if no one will be speaking, we will close that public hearing at 8:55. We will now move on to 7.9, consideration and action of the request of James Bell Gardner Construction Group for approval of a zoning district change for property generally located north of the intersection of State Highway 205 and FM 550 from the SF 2.5 residential zoning district and a GB general business zoning district to a GB general business district for the development of 2 commercial lots, each roughly 3 acres in size, and consideration of an ordinance approving the request. I will push this over to you, Mr. Asa.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. So this applicant is requesting approval of a zoning district change from SF 2.5 residential zoning districts and GB general business zoning district to a GB general business district for the development of 2 commercial lots, each roughly 3 acres in size. The application is in conformity with the recommendations of the McLendon-Chisholm Comprehensive Plan. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommendation was approval of the zoning district change with conditions as set forth in the staff report, which are the following. For lots 1 and 2, expand both lots, currently both GB and SF 2.5, to the GB General Business Zoning District boundary. Compliance with the existing GB General Business Zoning District area is required, and then parking for the GB General Business development shall conform to the parking requirements of the zoning ordinance. And that concludes my staff report. I do believe that we have representatives for Gardner Construction Group here, and I will turn it over to them for any questions from the council.
Bart Gardner, 1066 Candace Circle, Rockwall, Texas. Here to answer any questions, or we presented it now for 6 months. So I know some of you are kind of new, so I'm here to answer anything that I can.
I think this is similar to the previous petition, and this particular petition is utilizing SF 2.5 and transitioning to, so it's a rezone to complete commercial, and part of that is a development plan and concept and development plan, and I'm making the assumption, as before, they go hand in hand. Am I correct on this?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that being said, the only question I have is, and I'm looking on page 62, you have in your development plan, you have a layout of, and to your disadvantage because you don't have it, but you probably have it in your mind, is a number of buildings. There are 8 buildings in total, 2 of them being 10,000 feet each, and that is on the frontage of the road, I believe, on probably the 550. And then to the rear of those 2 edifices will be 6 smaller buildings, each of 6,200 square feet. Am I defining this correctly?
Correct.
Okay. So
they're all, it's all approximate at this point. It's just a concept.
So that being said, is there truly, what's the value of this? And I'm not, trying to antagonize you specifically, and this is more of a rhetorical question. What's the value of this? What's the value of this if indeed he can come back and, after conferring with his owner, with the owner, and they can completely redesign this? Am I correct on that? I mean,
absolutely.
It can be anything different. I mean, you could have silos on in this project and build silos and entertain that in some fashion. Maybe build offices within the silos. I mean, this is meaningless to me. Am I misreading this, or is that the way you read this?
I feel the same way.
So this has no meaning at all. It's just part of the process that we're going through to satisfy your petition.
Let's part of the process that we've been asked to do in
Yes.
order to satisfy the city.
Yes.
But it's just a simple zoning change to take it to general business
And
at
that's
this
really
point.
what, that's all it is.
That's all it is.
That's really when it comes down to it, that's all it is. But they make these fellows go through these hoops, and they're, it's costing them money to put out this design, obviously, but it can change, at any point in time.
Yes.
Is there a silliness factor here? I don't know, I must be missing something.
Yeah, I've got developments going all over North Texas right now. This is typically a 30-day process in most municipalities. This is just a simple zoning change to take it to general business. That's it.
Okay, I don't want to read more into it than there is, and I think this is kind of nonsensical, but, you're satisfying the rule, so to speak.
Yeah, and I'll just
so-
add that no matter what's built here, it'll conform to all city zoning,
Yeah.
restrictions, everything. It's
That's
just-
to be understood. I'm fine with that.
Councilmember Day?
Go ahead and pass me over for a moment. This is very, very informative, and I have to reevaluate some of the stuff I'm seeing here.
Councilmember Easter?
I'm fine.
Councilmember McLendon? And Councilmember Brewer? He's coming back today.
Yeah, I just wanted to get confirmation from city staff and the attorney that the claim that this is only exclusive in terms of the scope of the decision that is being made today. It's exclusive to zoning, and that's it.
In fact, that's all it can be.
Yes.
Because that's what's noticed on the agenda. So it can't be more than that. And it's simply for whether or not this area is generally located between 205 and 550 is going to go from SF 2.5 to GB.
So back to Dan's, I think, amazing insight on this. From whence do these other documents, why are these being compiled into here? Because this is confusing, because I thought this was part of the package. So why is this part of the package for making a determination if it's as he just so astutely described, it wasn't relevant?
I know I can't answer that because I wasn't around when this was all done and adopted. Now, I can say that in general, there's a few reasons why a city would require, and it's pretty typical, I think you'll agree with me, it's pretty typical to require that most cities require these types of things. Now, they may have exceptions in there if you're going from a straight zoning X to a straight zoning Y, your consent plan doesn't matter as much because you can use any of the categories in that, okay? So they may break it up into a little more detail, but in general, several reasons, because you want to have an idea of what's going to go up, what it's going to look like, what it's going to be like. I understand it can change, but the advantage of that is, I think we all know, what's Michael Howell's #1 rule of developers? If they're talking, they're lying. So if something, no offense, because I don't know you, but that's my rule. So, and I don't hide from it. I don't have a problem with that. So the concept plan that's presented, if that developer, and we have a lot of the same developers, you've probably noticed that. So if they come from a concept plan and they give us that, and they completely transmogrify it into something that it's not, would you ever want, I'd sit there and say, why are you bringing this back to me? You flat lied to me. I'm not going to approve your zoning because I don't think it protects the public health, safety, and welfare to believe somebody that flat lied to me. So there's just those are a couple of reasons just off the top of my head that what we're talking about. Now, am I going to disagree with you if you want to, hey, look, you know what, sometimes exceptions, when you're going straight zoning X to straight zoning Y, as long as they're doing one of the uses, for example, any use that's going to be general business, this individual can do it. So as long as so the consent plan, I would agree in this particular case is a little more irrelevant than in other cases because they've got any use in GB. So maybe that's something that we could look into is, hey, you know what, our code of ordinances, what we require for zoning applications, maybe we need to break it up into a little bit. A lot of cities do. Doesn't mean that it's wrong that we do it. So it's a little extra. You mean some people think, hey, it's kind of nice, I understand it could change, but I want to have an idea of what they're telling me could potentially go on the property. So those are just a few reasons of why it might be, why the concept plan might be required by some cities. At least that's been my experience in the past. Again, it doesn't mean that we can't look at these and go, look, we need to streamline a little bit, because when you're going straight X to straight Y, it's really irrelevant, and we don't want to see a concept plan because we know they're limited to the uses in there. So this particular case, maybe we can look into amending what we've got and what we require.
Is there any further discussion? If not, I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to consider and act upon the request of James Bell Gardner Construction Group for approval of the zoning district change from property at the FM 550 from a 2.5 to a general business zone.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Wait, hold on, let's have a discussion, right? So we put it up for.
Okay, it's open for discussion.
All right. How is this different from the previous, from Ryan Webb's property? How's it different?
Well, we're on this item.
I understand that, but I want to know how is it different because we're going from zoning to zoning, and they gave, both entities gave a blueprint of it, and from what I've read and from what I've looked at, both of them have the same amount of detail in it. So how is it different?
I'll answer that for you. One, we already had a vote of 4-1, and it passed for Mr. Webb to have, or for us to have 2 extra weeks. In this particular one, this is going to a general business. So it is a little different. It may be same in overall zoning, but it is very different as far as the definition of it. So we're at a discussion. We can do this and talk in circles. I have no problem with that. But it is probably going to be up for a vote here soon, Councilmember McLendon.
I disagree with that, but we can continue.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. And we will move on to 7.10, update on all water-related issues. And we will definitely give an update. Right now, we really don't have anything on the water because we just had a call, a Zoom call, so I want to dissect some of that. Once I dissect some of that, we'll make sure that we give that to the people, but being that it was an attorney call, before I speak on it, I want to make sure that we're good to speak on that, but I promise you, you will know. So with that, we'll move on to 7.11, consideration and action adopting a resolution establishing a policy for the city's agenda preparation, sponsorship, and for order of business. Councilmember Day.
Thank you. Give me a moment to go ahead and open up to that, those items. This is a resolution that is kind of born from experience that I've had, not just in being on council, but by watching how it's been operating since I moved to the city. I guess it's about 7 years ago now. And as many people that have ever observed how I review things, I always look at things from the way that you make the sausage is just as important as the sausage itself and how it tastes. And so the process, in other words, is important. People need to be able to know what's going on. They need to be able to see what's going on, and they need to know who's behind or the driving portion of this. And so this resolution is born from that, and you can actually see the whereases. It's all in there. The kind of the meat and potatoes of the whole thing is on page 71, which is the last page, is posted as Exhibit A. There's 4 sections there. The first section effectively creates in the resolution, establishes a policy for how to submit a standard agenda. It's basically mimics very closely what we're currently doing, but it locks it in so the public knows exactly where it is in the pipe at any given time. And if they have a question of a council member and they want to know where things are happening, they could reach out to their council member. A lot of this stuff has all been run by Mr. Holla. I've been working with him for solidly a month, I think, trying to prepare this thing. He's reviewed it, beaten me up on it, told me how terrible this writing is, and we replaced it and changed it and altered it. And
In your defense, you did tell me those changed parts, those were Mr. Tucker's fault, so. Yeah.
Every one of them, every one of them. And so effectively, that's what Section 1 is doing, is it's just simply making in writing what has always been done verbally. Previously, Mayor Short, for example, would say, we need to have our agenda items in by the Friday after the meeting, right? So we would, by end of day, but we wouldn't even have the weekend to meet with constituents, whereas this punts it to 8 o'clock in the morning to the mayor on Monday. Or I'm sorry, to the city manager or to the, I'm sorry, the city secretary. So this gives us at least the weekend, and it also provides the city council with an opportunity to receive a draft of what that is going to look like. The current situation is, or the way it's been going for a very long time, and this again predates Mayor Short, goes back for quite some time, is you get the agenda on Friday, and it's like we on the council figure it all out at the same time as the rest of the public does. And we might not have the same agenda items, we might have conflicting agenda items, we have no ability to really understand, even being up here, how the sausage is being made, back to that metaphor. So effectively, this allows a process where we get a draft, we understand what that draft is and when it's going to be assigned to us. We understand it's a draft, right? That this could change. I might see something that the mayor wants on there that conflicts with my thing. I might say, I'm going to remove that. And not have that on the final agenda, as opposed to showing up out of the, again, at the end of it, show that there's two conflicting issues. So that's what Section 1 does, is it allows the public, as well as members of the council, to understand exactly where the agenda is in process prior to every single meeting. Section 2 does something pretty interesting. I think a lot of people will find interesting. Mr. Black's comments, I thought, were we argued a lot over this. We went back and forth. Actually, I'm sorry, Dan argued a lot over this. So it says, you're right, it has an interesting negative issue here, a double negative. What is actually happening here, and what this language is seeking to do, is to create sponsorship for all items. So an item will no longer appear on the agenda just as an item. It must have a sponsor, in other words, from a person, so you know which council member is putting it on there, whether it's from the mayor, the city manager, from myself or somebody else, with no more than 2 sponsors. And that requirement of sponsorship, up to 2, is put in place so that somebody doesn't say, wait, you got 3 sponsors. Did you just pre-vote on that thing? That's a walking quorum or a secret meeting infraction. So we don't want to have a TOMA violation. Effectively, it's saying two members of the city getting together can put an agenda item on, but no more than 2. That's the reason why it has that bizarre double. So are you satisfied now? Yes, wonderful. So that's effectively what this does. The second half of that paragraph number 2, what it simply says is that if we don't put it on the agenda, but there's a requirement by federal or state law to put it on, then there's a mechanism whereby that happens. That's all that simply says. With respect to section number 3, let me give it a quick minute to see what I'm looking at here. Section 3, beginning. Okay. This is actually born from some of the issues that I noticed that I've gotten from constituents. I've experienced the frustration myself, which is an agenda that wanders. I can't say that I was very, very happy when the agenda was laid out in a certain order and the public expected it to go in that order, and then instead it would go, item 6.1 to 6.8 to 6.3, and that was troublesome for me, and it was troublesome for a lot of people. And what this does is it seeks to allow the mayor, or it calls upon the mayor at the beginning of the meeting to say, let's go ahead and fix this at the beginning of the meeting so everybody knows up front the order in which we're going to do things. And if we have to move something up, the council can do it. And effectively, the council is now driving the bus in terms of how that meeting is going to be conducted from a point of policy. So at that point, we would go ahead and establish and order it. Now, if we have to change something or alter it, it could be changed by a supermajority of 2/3 vote. But that's effectively what item number 3 does. And of course, number 4 expands the final comments with respect to, we're going to do it, in fact, at the end of this meeting. All the council members, the mayor, all have the opportunity to speak and to make comments to the public. This simply expands it to the city manager as well as to the city attorney. And so they'll have the opportunity to speak to the public, and you can hear from them. Now, granted, we will not be allowed to deliberate or go back and forth or anything, because again, that's a violation. It's not on the agenda. So this is about trying to improve government. So the public understands exactly what is happening from day to day, and they know exactly where the agenda is and when we have to act and why we're operating the way we are. In the past, we didn't really have the opportunity to set the agenda. Again, the presiding officer, and this goes back for many years, could just simply jump around and they say, well, we'll go to an executive session now. I guess we're going to an executive session then, you know? And that was the way it was, that's how it was run. And effectively what I wanted to do is create a policy that puts us in the hands of the council, which I feel is a little closer, I think, sometimes to the political pulse of the city. That's it. And my second sponsor on this was Mr. Tucker.
Well, look at that. Change happening on day one. I kind of like this and excited about it, to be honest with you. I'm glad you addressed Section 2 because I was going to address that with Mr. Black since he spoke on it. I'm actually excited about this. This gives council, if you look at Section 1, a little more time to kind of look things over, which allows us to do a little more due diligence, which is just serving the people better. So I love this. I'm glad you two put this together. So if there's any other discussion on it, I'd love to hear it.
No, I just want to applaud Paul's efforts on this. I think putting structure and process and strong definition as to what we're doing lends transparency that we're all looking for. So I'm all on board for this. It having been loose ends in the past, now it's strictly defined, and any of us can register a complaint if we see something that's errant. And it isn't being performed like it's supposed to. So it drives, I think, in the long term, it drives a more efficient meeting, for sure.
Gives us all some accountability. Councilmember Easter.
Yeah, I think this will improve things and certainly make it a little bit more transparent. And I hope that kind of consistent with what we've done this evening is to move things a little bit faster if everyone has an idea of how things are going and why they're on the agenda and who's supporting them.
Councilmember McLendon, sir. And Councilmember Brewer.
Yeah, I think this is a good idea. I think one of the things I probably would like to see in the executive summary would be a fiscal impact statement. If we're proposing something that's going to hit the budget, then everybody needs to know how much it is, do we have the funds, or where is the funding coming from? That was something that in my previous city we had to do every time.
Is that something you're interested in getting from the staff today? On this particular, or are you just talking about in general? Generically, you mean? Gotcha.
Okay, then I will entertain a motion on this resolution.
I'll make a motion to accept the resolution as written.
I'll second that.
That's a short version.
So we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
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 We'll show that unanimous. All right, we are moving right along. We might get out of here at an earlier hour than it's been. 7.12, consideration and action on assigning a second council member to the water board. Currently, correct me if I'm wrong, turn off some of these mics. Councilmember Tucker, you're on that water committee currently, correct, sir? Okay, so we're going to assign a second member tonight. My recommendation, again, this is council's call, is I would like to see Councilmember Mike Easter be on that. He has been involved in it on some different levels, and I think that he could probably be, an extra voice of reason and brings some expertise to the table. So that would be my recommendation. But again, this is up to you, council. But we definitely want to have two council members on the water board.
I would second that recommendation.
Councilmember Tucker, the mayor can't make a motion.
I make a motion to assign a second council member to the water board, and that be Mike Easter, Councilmember Easter.
I second, provided Mr. Easter accepts the assignment.
I accept it, but
Don't you dare.
I would never abstain up here. Yeah, Mike, I guess we could have asked you first, put you on the spot. Well, we have that. Is there any further discussion? If not, I will go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Well, show that unanimous. Looky here, 9:20. I'm loving this life right now.
Mayor, before you grab that gavel or continue on this, I don't have any notes from 7.4. So I apologize for that. If you hit that, or I may have been running around at the time, but I didn't get that.
We did skip that. So looky there. We're going to call that a mayor rookie mistake, and we'll blame somebody later. Myself. So thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Can I also tell you with this, just a quick staff report on it, this is something that is new legislation that went into effect in September of last year. When the city receives a petition for de-annexation out of our ETJ, from the date that the city receives the petition, there are 45 days and they're out no matter what you say. So you can vote no tonight, and in 45 days they're out anyway. The 45 days for this request ends in June 2nd. If you vote tonight in favor of releasing them, they'll be out on today. So that's what for your own information.
Thank you. I definitely want to look into that. I've been reading up on that release from the ETJ, especially with some of the stuff I know is coming up. And that's something we can probably talk about more later, because I think there are some votes that happen with them or the residents petition or something, but totally off topic. So anyway, 7.14 or 7.4, petition of landowner for release of area from City of McLendon-Chisholm extraterritorial jurisdiction. Petition received April 18th, 2024. So as staff has just said, that the shot clock is going to hit in June anyhow. So if we vote on it, it just allows them to be released effectively tonight. So I'll take any discussion on this.
Does city staff have any insights into the reasons why they are trying to leave our ETJ?
No, we don't, and I don't believe state law requires them to put any of that in.
Does, in their petition, they cite various things that, to verify that they're not like next to a military base and that kind of thing? Do we have a process to verify what it is that they're swearing to?
Very quickly, no. I mean, I was taught at the deposition. Yeah, that may be something we should look into and see if we need to set up a process when we receive it.
In answer to your question too, on certain things like 143, 031, 032 of the election code, the officer in charge of the election in pretty much every city, it's a city secretary. And surprisingly, I think we had this issue come up. But the city secretary or whoever the officer is only required to look at the face of what's presented to them. They are not required, they're not supposed to, and they shouldn't delve any deeper than what is written on the piece of paper. And that's the same thing there. We have the right to look at the face of the petition, and the elements are laid out. It's in 43.04 and 43.105. All the elements of what they require the petition, like the meets and bounds, the military base, all that stuff. They're saying it, they're swearing it, so we have the right to look at that and take that at face value. And so then I think it's subsection D of 105 says look in 45 days. Personally, I think it wastes council's time because there's nothing that we can do to stop them from getting out of our ETJ. And so I have this issue come up with a lot of other cities. And my thing is, do whatever you want. Everybody can do whatever they want to do. But my view is, don't bother to put it on the agenda and waste everybody's time because they're out 45 days anyway. So if that's what they want to do, that's what they want to do. But in general, we're not required to look in any farther than beyond their. Now, we do have exactly the same thing as 143.032. We have to make sure all those requirements, because if the council did want to take action on the petition, they couldn't. So looking at the face of the petition, for example, I had one about 4 or 5 months ago, came up in another city, they didn't have a meets and bounds attached. Well, that's a requirement of the petition. You have to have the meets and bounds on the area that you're asking for release from the ETJ. So that was not there. That's something we need to inform them, and the city secretary is in charge, and I think the statute says city secretary is in charge of saying, hey, look, you know what, we've got it, your petition's got all the elements except for this one, so I'm notifying you that it doesn't have it. So hopefully that will address what your concern is.
No, I think I understand what you're saying. It's just the former cop of me is always not always so trusting on what people swear to.
I like that. I like that. So, hey.
Okay.
Are there any penalties if they falsify any of that information? Do you know?
Oh, no. This is totally a pro-developer, pro-owner, anti-city bill passed by the state legislature. So there are actually no... Look, the statute doesn't even make sense, quite frankly. It says that the city council is supposed to release them in 10 days. Well, if you're supposed to release them in 10 days, why do you have that 45-day operation of law? Well, that doesn't even make sense. So the whole statute to me is like nonsensical. So there's absolutely, much like chapter 64, you got to canvass no earlier than 3 days, no later than 11 days. What's the penalty if you don't? Nothing. Same thing.
I always enjoy the speed talking of our council Holla.
It's my view is we charge by the hour, so it's my job to get as many words in per minute as I can. That's the ethical and right thing to do for my council.
He operates as that last person on the TV commercials. Well, I will entertain a motion on 7.4, the petition of the release of the landowner from the ETJ.
Yeah, I make a motion that we release the petition of or act on the petition of the landowner for release of the area from the city of McLendon-Chisholm extraterritorial jurisdiction on the petition that was received on April 18th, 2024.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second, and is there any discussion? If there is no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And show that unanimous. So now we'll move on to council members' reports and announcements. And for the two new council members, y'all have seen enough of the meetings. We just go down the line and basically if you have anything you want to say. So we'll start with our council member Tucker.
Tomorrow will be the bi-monthly meeting of the Road Commission for the county, and so I'll be attending that at 5:30. And also we have the Office of Emergency Management meeting tomorrow, and you were previously on that. Would you like me to attend that as well? And
you're on roads after, right?
On roads.
So
have you assigned somebody
I
there?
haven't assigned anybody. I know Councilmember Brewer's going to go with me.
Okay, you're going to go.
I will be there tomorrow. And
okay,
then I'm taking
I was just going to, provide cover until we had somebody assigned to that. Perfectly fine.
I think next council we're going to be doing all the assignments of everybody, so that'll be a fun one too.
Perfectly fine.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Councilmember Day?
I don't have a whole lot to report other than projects that I'm working on going forward in terms of along the lines of trying to improve good government for the city. A couple more ideas are coming, and I hope that they will get the same kind of support that this last one got. Again, it's really just giving the public an understanding of where we are in all processes, and knowing what where the levers are and who to reach out to if they have a question or a concern, and to find out how that action could be done on their behalf. So that's what we're working towards. I'm working towards that, and I think we're going to see some interesting ideas coming forward.
Councilmember Easter.
Well, hard to believe as it is, I really don't have much to say.
We'll jump on that. Councilmember McLendon, sir. And we'll finish up with Councilmember Brewers for the council members.
I'll just say, I just want to thank everybody for putting me in this seat. And I look forward to working with these gentlemen and accomplishing great things. I thank you, my wife, for the support, and my friends, Aaron, Sherry, and Helen, and Rich. So thank you all very much. And yeah, let's get going.
And I have nothing. Thank you for everyone coming out. This meeting will be adjourned at 9:30.
And since we're adjourned, council, remember that in the consent, your next meeting is on a Wednesday, not on 2 weeks Tuesday. The 29th is not a Tuesday. It's meant to be the 29th Wednesday.